and is involved in research, development, up to driving the products to the marketplace. So how do we do that? I said earlier, by assembly of research networks. Okay, so one of the things ANDI did initially was to really do a mapping of research capacity in Africa. And we discovered that there was quite a lot of capacity to do research, to really innovate in health. But what we noticed was that there was very little collaboration between African institutions. There was more collaboration between African institutions and institutions in the West. Okay, probably or more certainly because there was research funding coming from these countries. So ANDI said, no, what we need is that we need to create more intra-Africa collaboration between institutions. So what we did next was to try to launch a call for centers of excellence to identify institutions in Africa that are capable, that have the capacity to really carry out research. That was a very long process, took 18 months, but at the end of these 18 months, by October last year, ANDI announced 32 institutions in Africa that have the capacity to innovate. And what does ANDI want? To use these institutions that have the capacity to build capacity in other institutions through networking, collaboration between these institutions. We know who is doing what, where, and is also building a database of researchers and institutions. So we know who is doing what, where. And so where we have capacity, we use it to build capacity where there is deficient. The aim is to build capacity in health research and health innovation all over Africa, so that institutions in Africa, African countries, are in the position to drive research from basic research, discovery, development, delivery, up to licensing and to the marketplace. And in fact, among these 32 institutions that do research, we have also 6 pharmaceutical companies that are members of ANDI Centers of Excellence. When ANDI was launched in 2008, what we said, our vision was that the first dollar for ANDI operations should come from within Africa, because we believe strongly that there is enormous wealth in this continent to carry out research, so without depending on donor funding. And incidentally, myself, before I went to work for ANDI, wherever I went to work and I went to teach, I always said that there was a limit always to what can be done with funding from donors. That it is, it's like some people in my country used to say that nobody cleans the cooking pots for the bachelor than the bachelor himself. So that this funding has to come from within Africa. So basically, we believe that Africa should go beyond aid. What I believe and what ANDI believes is that it should be possible to address this question. We find it difficult to number up more than 10 countries in this continent beyond South Africa, besides South Africa, that is really seriously funding research. There, people are making initiatives, but then I think there are not too many countries that have met the 1% GDP funding. I really don't think, honestly, that there are few of them. One of the projects of ANDI, building capacity, training postdoctoral, pre-doctoral fellows, training also not only doctoral or pre-doctoral fellows, but also technicians, because we do need technicians, and these are the young people, the youth of today. Because ANDI believes strongly that if we don't empower the youth, if we don't give something, if we don't take steps for the youth, I'm afraid that we'll be facing some serious challenges. So ANDI is addressing that through a fellowship program, wherein we will train postdoctoral fellows, pre-doctoral fellows, and also technicians in laboratories. I've listened, I've been in several sessions, and I think it's appearing for the first time that the emphasis on internal funding, okay, people are beginning to take cognizance and really relate to the fact that there is need for internal funding to carry out research, because Africa is large. Africa is large, so we cannot expect to have a one European country supply the research funds that will elevate that will substantiate research in Africa. Otherwise, it would mean that it would be too thinly spread over, and it wouldn't achieve much. So my take-home message is that it is becoming evident, and people are beginning to admit it, that there is need for internal funding to substantiate, to support what COHRED and other aid agencies are doing in Africa.